The night air was thick with uncertainty over the Pacific in late 1941. American pilots, seasoned in daylight aerial combat, found themselves disoriented and vulnerable under the cloak of darkness. The enemy moved freely in the shadows, Japanese and German aviators operating with a confidence born of superior night fighting experience and equipment. For the United States Army Air Forces, this was a harsh awakening. The night sky became a deadly chessboard where American pilots initially held the disadvantage. At the outbreak of World War II, American airmen faced a stark reality: night combat was a peril unlike any they had mastered. The tactics honed in broad daylight proved inadequate when faced with the black void above. Enemy aircraft disappeared into the darkness, striking at will and vanishing before retaliation could be mounted. This was not merely a technological shortfall but a doctrinal gap, a failure to adapt to the challenges of nocturnal warfare. The Germans had long recognized the strategic significance of the night sky. Their Luftwaffe night fighter units, equipped with radar and trained rigorously in night interception procedures, dominated the European night battles. Similarly, the Japanese Navy's night pilots executed ambushes with precision in the Pacific theater. American aviators found themselves outmatched in a realm where visual cues were scarce and the margin for error narrow. The initial battles underscored a painful truth: to win the night, the United States would need to rethink and reinvent its approach to aerial warfare after dark. One must understand that the early American struggle was not for lack of courage or skill. Pilots flew with determination, but they were constrained by the limitations of their aircraft and the absence of specialized training. Night flying required a mastery of instruments and an ability to maintain spatial orientation without the familiar horizon. More critically, it demanded a coordinated effort between the pilot and a radar operator, a role that was still in its infancy within the American Air Forces. In those early months, many engagements ended in frustration or disaster. Pilots reported losing contact with enemy aircraft moments after beginning an interception. Radar, where available, was rudimentary, and many fighters lacked the modifications necessary to support night operations. The absence of reliable communication protocols between radar stations and interceptors further complicated matters. These technical and procedural deficiencies translated into missed opportunities and unnecessary losses. At a critical juncture, American commanders recognized that the night posed a unique battlefield with its own rules. Air superiority by day did not guarantee control after sunset. The enemy exploited darkness to disrupt supply lines, attack vulnerable installations, and erode morale. Without a robust night fighting capability, the United States risked ceding strategic advantages that could tip the balance of the war. This realization sparked an urgent push to develop specialized units and doctrines tailored to nocturnal combat. The goal was clear: American pilots must not only survive but dominate the night. The challenge was formidable. It required integrating emerging radar technology, redesigning training programs, and fostering new tactical mindsets. It demanded a willingness to confront the unknown and to innovate beyond conventional aerial warfare paradigms. One illustrative moment came during a night patrol over the Aleutian Islands. Lieutenant James "Red" Sullivan, flying AP-40 Warhawk ill-equipped for night fighting, struggled to maintain visual contact with a shadowy silhouette reported by ground radar. His radio crackled with frustration: "I've lost him, visibility 0. Sullivan's experience was emblematic of countless pilots grappling with the blindfold of night. His mission ended without engagement, a stark reminder that traditional tactics could not prevail when the enemy held the darkness. Meanwhile, intelligence reports confirmed that Axis night fighter units were gaining kills with impunity. German pilots on the Western Front had perfected the art of radar-assisted interceptions, while Japanese night bombing raids inflicted damage on Allied supply lines across the Pacific. Each success by enemy night fighters challenged American resolve and underscored the imperative for change. The early phase of the war thus became a crucible for American night fighting doctrine. The United States was forced to confront its technological shortcomings and embrace a comprehensive overhaul of night combat strategy. The initial setbacks galvanized research into radar technology, aircraft modifications, and pilot training tailored specifically for the night environment. At the heart of this transformation lay a fundamental shift in mindset. Night fighting could not be treated as an extension of daytime dogfighting; it was a separate domain demanding specialized skills and coordination. Pilots needed to trust their instruments and radar operators as much as their eyes. Radar operators, in turn, had to develop proficiency in interpreting signals under pressure and communicating effectively with their pilots. This symbiotic relationship would become the cornerstone of American night fighter success. The urgency of this doctrinal evolution was underscored during the early defense of the British Isles. American units supporting the Royal Air Force observed firsthand how the British employed radar-equipped night fighters to thwart German bombing raids. The British doctrine emphasized maintaining radar contact at all times, a principle that would later be echoed and refined by American forces. The United States began to import and adapt these lessons, recognizing that technological innovation alone was insufficient without doctrinal clarity and rigorous training. In training fields across the country, the emphasis shifted. Instrument flying, once a secondary skill, became a primary focus. Pilots underwent rigorous drills to maintain spatial orientation and perform intercepts guided solely by instruments and radio communication. Ground controllers trained in radar operations worked closely with aircrews to develop precise vectoring techniques. These efforts aimed to forge a new breed of aviators who could take initiative in the confusion of night combat, exploiting the darkness advantage rather than succumbing to it. Yet, the path was fraught with challenges. Many pilots initially resisted the shift, accustomed to visual identification and direct engagement. The idea of relying on unseen signals and radio directions felt alien and risky. Reconciling this skepticism required strong leadership and compelling demonstration of night fighting's potential. Commanders emphasized a simple but powerful mantra: do not wait. Take initiative. Maintain radar contact. These principles became the bedrock of American night fighting doctrine. As 1942 unfolded, pilot experiences gradually reflected the fruits of these doctrinal shifts. Night interceptions, once rare and ineffective, began to increase in frequency and success. The night sky slowly transformed from an enemy sanctuary into a contested battleground. Still, the journey from vulnerability to mastery was only beginning. In summary, the early challenges faced by American pilots in night fighting revealed a critical gap in capability that threatened operational effectiveness. Confronted by enemy advantages in technology and tactics, the United States embarked on a determined effort to develop specialized night fighting doctrine. This effort acknowledged that night combat required more than bravery; it demanded innovation in technology, training, and tactical philosophy. The struggle was arduous, but it set the stage for the revolutionary advances that would follow. The night would no longer be a refuge for the enemy but a domain where American pilots could take the initiative and exploit the darkness advantage. The turning point in American night fighting came with a technological breakthrough that would transform the very nature of nocturnal aerial combat: radar. This innovation was not merely an addition to existing capabilities, it was a revolution that redefined the battlefield after dark. The U.S. military invested heavily in developing and integrating airborne interception radar systems, pioneering tools that would grant pilots unprecedented situational awareness in conditions previously ruled by blindness and guesswork. Radar technology was, at first, a complex and unwieldy secret weapon. Early systems were bulky and prone to failure, yet the potential they held was undeniable. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to miniaturize and refine these devices, eventually creating radar units small and light enough to be installed in fighter aircraft. This leap forward produced the first generation of true night fighters, planes that could seek out and track enemy aircraft even in total darkness or through cloud cover. The P-61 Black Widow stands as the emblem of this technological stride. Designed from the ground up as a night fighter, the Black Widow was equipped with state-of-the-art radar systems and a dedicated radar operator. Unlike earlier fighters adapted for night missions, the P-61 embodied an integrated approach, melding technology and crew roles into a cohesive fighting machine. The pilot and radar operator worked in unison. The operator scanned the radar scope, guiding the pilot toward elusive targets invisible to the naked eye. This synergy between man and machine was a game changer. Radar allowed pilots to detect enemy aircraft well before visual contact, negating one of the most significant challenges of night combat: the enemy's ability to vanish into the darkness. Radar operators learned to interpret blips and echoes, translating abstract signals into actionable intelligence. The cockpit became a command center, where data from radar screens and instruments informed split-second decisions. The practical impact was immediate. American pilots flew with a new confidence, no longer shackled by the limitations of sight alone. They could maintain radar contact through the entire engagement, tracking enemy movements with precision. This capability shifted the initiative firmly into their hands. Instead of waiting for an enemy to reveal itself, pilots could proactively seek and intercept, exploiting the darkness advantage rather than being prey to it. The development of airborne radar was accompanied by innovations in aircraft design and armament. Night fighters like the P-61 featured powerful engines for speed and maneuverability, as well as heavy armament to bring down targets swiftly once located. The integration of radar demanded alterations to cockpit layouts and crew communications, emphasizing clear and concise information exchange. These planes were not just fighters, they were mobile command posts engineered for nocturnal dominance. This technological edge contrasted sharply with the earlier American reliance on visual spotting and ground-based radar guidance alone. While ground radar stations played a crucial role in vectoring fighters toward enemy formations, the ability to carry radar on board gave pilots autonomy once airborne. It reduced dependence on external guidance and allowed for flexible, dynamic engagements. Pilots could adjust tactics on the fly, responding to rapidly changing combat conditions without losing track of their quarry. The effectiveness of radar-equipped night fighters was soon demonstrated in combat theaters around the world. In the Pacific, the P-61 and similar radar-equipped aircraft hunted Japanese night bombers and reconnaissance planes with increasing success. In Europe, American night fighter squadrons integrated radar tactics learned from British counterparts, pushing back against the Luftwaffe's nocturnal raids. Each successful interception reinforced the doctrine that maintaining radar contact was not just advantageous, it was essential. Behind these operational successes was a concerted effort to improve radar technology continuously. Engineers refined signal processing, enhanced detection ranges, and improved the reliability of airborne units. Training programs evolved to teach radar operators the nuances of signal interpretation, emphasizing the critical nature of their role in maintaining situational awareness. The radar operator became as vital as the pilot, a true co-pilot in the art of night combat. The introduction of radar also influenced command and control procedures. Night fighter units coordinated closely with ground-based radar stations and fighter control centers. These centers provided early warning and initial vectors, enabling fighters to close in on enemy formations before switching to onboard radar for the final intercept. This layered approach maximized the chances of successful engagement and minimized wasted time searching in the dark. American air commanders understood that radar was not a standalone solution but a force multiplier when combined with rigorous training and tactical innovation. The technology's promise could only be realized if pilots and radar operators mastered its use under combat conditions. This insight led to the establishment of specialized training schools where crews honed their skills in simulated night missions, learning to trust their instruments implicitly. Radar also introduced new tactical possibilities. Pilots could now execute stealthy approaches guided by radar, positioning themselves for surprise attacks from angles and distances previously unattainable. The ability to detect enemy aircraft beyond visual range allowed for more deliberate and calculated engagements, reducing the chaotic, reactionary nature of earlier night battles. Commanders encouraged crews to take initiative, to do not wait but actively seek the fight under the cover of darkness. The psychological impact on enemy forces was profound. Where once night provided sanctuary, it increasingly became a deadly gauntlet. Japanese and German pilots, accustomed to exploiting the night, now faced adversaries who could locate and engage them with deadly precision. This shift in power dynamics altered enemy tactics, forcing them to adapt or retreat. American radar-equipped night fighters became a deterrent as much as a weapon. Moreover, radar integration catalyzed further research into electronic warfare and countermeasures. Both sides sought to disrupt or deceive radar signals, leading to an ongoing technological contest that pushed innovation forward. The complexity of night fighting expanded beyond raw flying skill to include mastery of emerging electronic systems, underscoring the modernity of this new form of combat. The legacy of radar in American night fighting is undeniable. It laid the foundation for modern all-weather, day and night fighter operations that remain a cornerstone of air combat doctrine today. The ability to maintain radar contact, to exploit the darkness advantage through technology, transformed night fighting from a hazardous gamble into a calculated science. In the crucible of World War II, radar-equipped night fighters symbolized the union of human skill and technological ingenuity. They embodied a doctrine that demanded not just courage but precision, coordination, and initiative. As American pilots took to the night skies with radar guidance, they reclaimed the darkness, turning it into a battlefield where they held the advantage. This chapter in military aviation history stands as a testament to the transformative power of innovation. Radar did not merely level the playing field, it tilted it decisively in favor of the United States. The doctrine worked. By the end of the war, American pilots dominated nocturnal aerial combat, a feat impossible without the technological revolution that radar brought to the fight. Technology alone did not secure American dominance in night fighting. The U.S. military recognized early on that cutting-edge radar equipment, while essential, was insufficient without the human element fully prepared to exploit it. This understanding sparked a fundamental shift in doctrine and training, an evolution that forged a new generation of night fighters capable of operating as cohesive, highly coordinated teams under the most challenging conditions. The heart of this transformation lay in specialized training programs designed to teach pilots and radar operators not only to master their individual roles but to function as an integrated unit. Night combat demanded a level of cooperation and communication unprecedented in traditional fighter operations. Pilots had to trust their radar operators implicitly, relying on their guidance to locate and track enemy aircraft invisible to the naked eye. Meanwhile, radar operators needed to understand the dynamics of aerial combat to provide timely and accurate information. Instrument flying became a cornerstone of this training philosophy. Pilots learned to navigate and maneuver solely by reference to cockpit instruments, a skill critical when visual cues vanished into the darkness. Early in the war, many aviators were uncomfortable or inexperienced with flying without a visible horizon, leading to disorientation and accidents. Rigorous drills and simulated night flights gradually built proficiency and confidence, enabling pilots to maintain control and composure under demanding conditions. Equally vital was the training of radar operators. Unlike traditional gunners or navigators, radar operators played an active combat role, scanning scopes for fleeting blips and interpreting signals that could mean the difference between success and failure. Their task was complex. They had to discern enemy aircraft signatures from clutter, calculate vectors, and communicate clear instructions to the pilot. Training emphasized quick decision-making and calm, precise communication under pressure. This joint training extended beyond the cockpit. Ground-based instruction focused on teamwork exercises that simulated the entire interception process, from initial radar detection at control centers to airborne engagement. Crews practiced maintaining radar contact continuously, a doctrine principle drilled into all participants: maintain radar contact. Do not wait. Take initiative. These maxims underscored the importance of proactive engagement and constant situational awareness. The shift in tactical philosophy was profound. Traditional daytime dogfighting relied heavily on visual identification and maneuvering to gain an advantage. Night fighting, by contrast, demanded a methodical approach where information flow and coordination were paramount. Pilots learned to execute intercepts guided by radar readings rather than instinct or visual cues. This required a mental discipline and trust in technology unfamiliar to many aviators. To facilitate this change, the U.S. established specialized night fighter training schools. These programs combined classroom instruction in radar theory and instrument flying with practical flight exercises under simulated night conditions. Instructors stressed the need for pilots to synchronize their flying with radar operator input seamlessly. The objective was to reduce reaction times and errors in the heat of combat, ensuring crews could engage swiftly and decisively. One training scenario involved blind interceptions, where pilots flew without external visibility, relying entirely on radar operator guidance. The exercises emphasized maintaining radar contact at all times, navigating toward the target with precision. Pilots practiced vectors given by operators, directions and headings designed to close the distance stealthily. These drills fostered a disciplined approach to night combat, ensuring crews could exploit the darkness advantage rather than be overwhelmed by it. Communication protocols were standardized to eliminate confusion during engagements. Radar operators used concise, unambiguous language to relay critical information: range, bearing, altitude of targets, while pilots responded with acknowledgements and status updates. This exchange formed the backbone of effective night fighting, allowing crews to make rapid tactical decisions. The mantra "do not wait" was more than motivational, it was a directive to maintain momentum and seize the initiative. The training also addressed psychological challenges inherent in night operations. Flying in darkness imposed stress and fatigue, compounded by the need to process complex information rapidly. Crews were trained to manage these pressures, maintaining situational awareness and composure. Instructors emphasized the importance of trust, not only in equipment but in each other. This trust forged cohesive teams capable of executing intricate maneuvers with precision. The doctrinal shift extended to tactical employment. Night fighters were taught to approach engagements with stealth and surprise, using radar to position themselves advantageously before visual contact. The element of surprise was critical, as enemy pilots often lacked equivalent night fighting capabilities. Crews learned to avoid prolonged chases or dogfights, instead focusing on swift, decisive attacks once the target was locked. This approach contrasted sharply with earlier, more haphazard night combat attempts, where pilots often sought visual confirmation before engaging, an often fatal hesitation. The new doctrine demanded confidence in radar data and proactive action. Take initiative became a guiding principle, encouraging crews to seize control of the battle rather than react passively. Training squadrons incorporated feedback from combat experiences, constantly refining tactics and procedures. Lessons learned from operational deployments fed back into the curriculum, ensuring that training remained relevant and effective. This dynamic process accelerated the maturation of American night fighting capability, closing the gap with enemy forces and eventually surpassing them. Commanders recognized that the success of night operations hinged on this integrated training philosophy. It was not enough to equip pilots with radar, they had to become experts in its use within the unique context of night combat. This holistic approach distinguished American night fighting doctrine from earlier, less coordinated efforts and set a standard for future aerial warfare. The effectiveness of this training became evident as crews returned from combat with increased kill ratios and mission success. Pilots reported greater confidence and situational awareness, while radar operators took pride in their vital role. The bond between pilot and radar operator evolved into a partnership marked by mutual reliance and respect, a microcosm of the broader doctrinal transformation. In the broader strategic picture, these training advances enabled night fighter squadrons to undertake more complex and daring missions. Crews could operate deep into enemy territory, confident in their ability to detect and engage threats without visual cues. This capacity enhanced air defense and offensive operations alike, safeguarding critical assets and disrupting enemy activities under the cover of darkness. The integration of technology, training, and tactical philosophy epitomized a new era in American aerial warfare. The lessons learned and doctrines developed during this period laid the groundwork for modern night fighting principles. Maintaining radar contact, exploiting darkness advantages, and taking initiative became ingrained tenets of air combat strategy. American pilots and radar operators emerged from these specialized training programs not just as skilled aviators but as pioneers of night warfare. Their success demonstrated that mastery of night combat required more than innovation in equipment, it demanded a fundamental change in how aircrews were prepared, how they operated, and how they thought about warfighting after dark. This doctrinal evolution was a critical step forward, bridging the gap between technological promise and operational reality. By embracing rigorous, integrated training and fostering tactical discipline, the United States transformed its night fighting forces from vulnerable novices into formidable adversaries capable of dominating the skies when the sun set. American night fighter squadrons, forged through innovation and rigorous training, began to translate their newfound capabilities into tangible battlefield successes across multiple theaters. The transition from theoretical doctrine to operational effectiveness was neither instantaneous nor without challenges, but it marked a definitive turning point in nocturnal aerial warfare. Pilots and radar operators now wielded the tools and tactics necessary to seize the initiative and exploit the darkness advantage with increasing confidence and skill. In both the European and Pacific theaters, these specialized units demonstrated their mettle. Night after night, crews launched into the sky, guided by ground radar stations and onboard interception radar, to hunt enemy aircraft that had once moved with impunity under the cover of darkness. The operational tempo intensified as American forces refined their methods, adapting to the evolving tactics of their adversaries and capitalizing on technological superiority. The Pacific Theater, in particular, presented formidable challenges. Japanese night bombers and reconnaissance planes had long exploited the cover of night to disrupt Allied supply lines and conduct surprise attacks. American night fighters, equipped with radar and trained in coordinated tactics, shifted the balance. Pilots employed stealth and surprise, using radar to close in undetected before unleashing devastating firepower. The psychological impact on Japanese crews was palpable. The night no longer guaranteed safety but became a perilous gauntlet. One notable engagement over the Solomon Islands illustrates this transformation vividly. Lieutenant Commander William "Bill" Harris, piloting a radar-equipped P-61 Black Widow, received vectors from his radar operator to intercept a formation of enemy bombers. Maintaining radar contact, Harris maneuvered silently through the darkness, closing the distance without visual confirmation. As the enemy aircraft loomed within firing range, Harris radioed calmly, "Target in sight. Engaging now." Within moments, the Black Widow's guns erupted, dispatching 2 bombers before the formation scattered. This mission typified the tactical philosophy: maintain radar contact, take initiative, and exploit the darkness advantage. European operations further highlighted American night fighter effectiveness. Units operating alongside Royal Air Force squadrons absorbed British lessons on night interception, integrating them with American technological innovations. Night fighter groups conducted large-scale sweeps against Luftwaffe intruders, using layered radar guidance from ground stations to airborne interceptors. These coordinated efforts disrupted German bombing raids, protecting critical infrastructure and civilian populations. Adaptability became a hallmark of American night fighter squadrons. Enemy tactics evolved in response to increasing American effectiveness, prompting pilots and commanders to adjust their own methods. Crews learned to anticipate evasive maneuvers, employing radar to track unpredictable flight paths and maintain contact even in challenging weather. This adaptability underscored the dynamic nature of night combat, where maintaining radar contact was not merely procedural but a continuous, active effort requiring skill and persistence. The operational successes of these squadrons had strategic implications beyond individual engagements. By neutralizing enemy night bombing capabilities, American night fighters safeguarded the logistical arteries vital to sustained offensive operations. Supply convoys, troop movements, and forward bases benefited from the increased security, enabling broader campaign objectives to proceed with reduced risk from nocturnal threats. Moreover, these victories bolstered morale among Allied aircrews and ground forces alike. Knowing that the night sky was no longer a sanctuary for enemy aircraft instilled confidence and a sense of control. Pilots reported a growing willingness to engage aggressively after dark, a stark contrast to the caution and uncertainty that characterized early war night operations. The success of American night fighters was also evident in the attrition inflicted on enemy forces. Kill ratios improved steadily as crews mastered the coordination of radar guidance and tactical execution. Enemy pilots faced mounting losses, forced to reconsider the viability of night missions or develop countermeasures against radar detection and interception. This pressure gradually eroded the enemy's early advantage in night fighting. Key to these operational achievements was the seamless integration of technology, training, and command and control. Ground radar stations played a vital role in early detection and vectoring, alerting night fighter squadrons to incoming threats and guiding them toward interception points. Once airborne, pilots relied on onboard radar systems and radar operators to close the distance and execute attacks with precision. This layered defense ensured that the initiative remained squarely with American forces. The tactical philosophy drilled into crews, maintain radar contact, take initiative, and do not wait, manifested in every engagement. Pilots who hesitated or lost radar contact risked losing their quarry. Those who pressed the attack with confidence often achieved decisive outcomes. This doctrine fostered an aggressive, proactive mindset that transformed night combat from reactive defense into offensive opportunity. American night fighter squadrons also contributed to broader operational testing and refinement. Large-scale night exercises simulated enemy raids, allowing crews to practice coordination and tactics in realistic conditions. These exercises identified weaknesses and informed adjustments in procedures, aircraft modifications, and training curricula. The iterative process ensured that night fighting capabilities remained sharp and evolved alongside enemy adaptations. Field commanders recognized the value of maintaining flexibility within doctrine and tactics. While core principles remained constant, pilots were encouraged to innovate and exploit situational advantages. This balance between discipline and initiative was critical in the fluid, unpredictable environment of night warfare, where split-second decisions often determined survival and success. The effectiveness of American night fighters did not go unnoticed by enemy command. Reports and intelligence assessments acknowledged the growing threat posed by radar-equipped interceptors and the skill of their crews. In response, Axis forces experimented with electronic countermeasures, altered flight patterns, and increased fighter escorts. Yet these adaptations often came too late or were insufficient to stem the tide of American night fighting dominance. Operational success was further amplified by the psychological strain imposed on enemy aircrews. The constant threat of radar-guided interception eroded confidence, contributing to cautious tactics and reduced operational effectiveness. The night, once a realm of freedom for enemy aviators, became a source of anxiety and peril. The cumulative effect of these operational victories was a decisive shift in nocturnal air superiority. American night fighter squadrons established control over the skies during hours previously dominated by the enemy. This control enabled Allied forces to conduct critical missions under the cover of darkness with reduced risk, enhancing overall strategic flexibility and effectiveness. By continuously exploiting the darkness advantage and maintaining radar contact, American night fighters redefined the parameters of aerial warfare. Their operational successes demonstrated the practical power of doctrine combined with technology and training. The night was no longer a blind spot but a domain where American air power asserted itself decisively. These field adaptations and victories also reinforced the importance of joint coordination among air crews, ground radar operators, and command centers. The complex choreography required to detect, vector, intercept, and engage enemy aircraft demanded seamless communication and trust. The American doctrine's emphasis on this integration proved its worth repeatedly in the crucible of combat. In summary, the operational phase of American night fighting showcased the doctrine's effectiveness in real-world conditions. Specialized squadrons, equipped with radar technology and trained in a new tactical philosophy, moved from experimental status to decisive combat forces. Their ability to adapt to enemy tactics, maintain radar contact, and take initiative underpinned a series of successes that shifted the balance of night-air combat. The night sky, once a domain of enemy advantage, had become a battlefield where American pilots held the edge. Through a combination of stealth, surprise, and technological mastery, they safeguarded critical missions and struck back against enemy nocturnal threats. This operational success set the stage for further refinement and ultimate mastery of night fighting as the war progressed. The innovations forged in the crucible of World War II fundamentally reshaped the art and science of aerial combat. American night fighters, once novices struggling in the darkness, emerged as masters of nocturnal warfare, setting standards that would echo far beyond the conflict. The integration of cutting-edge technology, specialized training, and adaptive tactics established a legacy that continues to underpin modern Air Force doctrine. The technologies pioneered during the war, most notably airborne interception radar, transformed night fighting from a hazardous gamble into a calculated and precise operation. Radar became the pilot's indispensable eye in the darkness, enabling detection, tracking, and engagement of enemy aircraft with a reliability previously unimagined. The P-61 Black Widow, emblematic of this technological leap, showcased how equipment designed specifically for night operations could deliver decisive advantages. Yet technology alone was never the full story. The rigorous training programs and doctrinal shifts that emphasized teamwork, communication, and initiative ensured that this technology was wielded effectively. Pilots and radar operators developed a symbiotic relationship, each dependent on the other to maintain radar contact and exploit the darkness advantage. This human-technology partnership became the essence of American night fighting mastery. The tactical doctrines crafted and refined during the war stressed principles that remain foundational today: maintain radar contact at all times, do not wait for the enemy to act, and take initiative. These maxims fostered a proactive approach to night combat, shifting American aircrews from reactive defenders to aggressive hunters of the night skies. This philosophy redefined the parameters of aerial engagement, proving that darkness was not a handicap but an asset to be exploited. The operational successes of American night fighter squadrons not only neutralized enemy advantages but also safeguarded vital Allied missions, ensuring the uninterrupted flow of troops, supplies, and intelligence. Their effectiveness forced adversaries to reconsider night operations, often retreating from what had once been uncontested space. This strategic impact underscored the decisive nature of night combat in the broader war effort. In the post-war era, these advances laid the groundwork for the development of all-weather, day and night fighter operations. The principles of maintaining radar contact, exploiting darkness, and taking initiative informed the design of successive generations of fighter aircraft and the training of aviators worldwide. Modern air forces owe much to the doctrinal and technological foundations established by American night fighters during World War II. Moreover, the legacy of American night fighting extends beyond equipment and tactics. It exemplifies how innovation, when paired with rigorous training and doctrinal clarity, can overcome initial disadvantages and redefine warfare. The transition from vulnerability to mastery in night combat stands as a testament to adaptability and perseverance in the face of formidable challenges. Reflecting on this history, it becomes clear that night combat is not merely a technical challenge but a domain where skill, trust, and initiative converge. The American experience demonstrates that maintaining radar contact and exploiting the darkness advantage are not abstract concepts but essential operational imperatives. To do otherwise is to surrender the initiative to the enemy. Today, as modern air forces confront new threats and technological landscapes, the lessons of World War II night fighting remain profoundly relevant. The integration of advanced sensors, electronic warfare capabilities, and network communications echo the pioneering efforts of those early radar operators and pilots. The doctrine that once guided Black Widow crews continues to inform how airmen prepare for and conduct operations after dark. The night sky, once a refuge for adversaries, has been transformed into a domain where technological innovation and human skill combine to assert control. This transformation is the enduring legacy of American night fighting doctrine. It calls on current and future aviators to uphold the principles of maintaining radar contact, seizing the initiative, and exploiting the darkness advantage with unwavering resolve. In honoring this legacy, we recognize the courage and ingenuity of the airmen who faced the unknown and turned night into their battlefield. Their story is not just a chapter in military history but an ongoing inspiration, a call to innovate, to train relentlessly, and to dominate the skies regardless of the hour. Nuts.